as you can see, there's only 10 steps to buying a house. Super easy, right? Well, we try to make it as easy as possible. And I think it's very important to know that who you work with matters. So that's why step one is choosing a realtor. It's super, super important that you choose and align yourself with the right team. There are lots of agents, for example, sitting around right now, not doing everything for their clients to make sure that they're getting the right information on the market, what they can do to buy a house in today's market. There's lots of agents that are just afraid of technology. And I'm pretty sure a lot of this stuff is going to be here to stay for the most part. So this is just one example of knowing that those of you watching this video right now are probably aligning yourself with the right team, because we're going to do everything we possibly can to make sure you're successful. So let's just start going through some of the stuff. So step one, choose a realtor. Why the Tyler Miller team? Other than obviously the most creative and amazing team name in the history of team names. Not really, but it works. Other than that, I would tell you that our number one goal is to educate you guys, which is why we're doing this exact thing right now. We know that through our experience that if you guys know what to expect and understand the process, that it's going to be a little bit easier, and it's going to be a lot more enjoyable for you. And that is the number one thing that we want to make sure is possible, is to create a 6-star experience for you. So you can see our number one goal there is to educate you. We have a direct and honest approach. We are not salespeople. Our title is sales partners, but we are not here to sell you anything. We are your advocates through this process. We want to make sure that you know exactly what you're getting into with each house, so that when we come back to sell it someday, that we're not having to tell you bad news. We're telling you only good news. And so we're not looking for a quick sale. We are trying to make sure that you understand everything that can occur during a transaction and with that specific property to make sure you make the right choice. We have the largest pre-listing network, and that is a fact. Especially there's some new intricacies to the real estate world that applies to every realtor throughout the United States. Just know that we have the largest real estate company in Edina Realty in the state of Minnesota, which allows us to get you the most pre-market opportunities possible, period. No matter what anybody else says, there's no way anybody can compete with the sheer size of Edina Realty. So just know that in a market that is usually very competitive, it's really important to be working with somebody who has exposure to a ton of off-market properties or coming soon properties, because you might be able to get a better deal or just beat the competition to the punch. So just know we have you covered there as well. Let's see here. So then we have over 30 years of experience. You know, I think experience only goes so far. You have to have relevant experience. You know, to say that the best realtor, you know, that you're the best realtor because you have the most experience is kind of short-sighted. I think that our experience comes with lots of relevant lessons that we've learned or taught our clients over the years, staying up to date on current trends and different and new ways to win in negotiations due to our experience. So just know that it's not like we just started a year or two ago. I've been around real estate my whole life, and I've passed on every piece of knowledge and more to my team over the years. So the 30 years of experience will go a very, very long way. Let's see, we have over 500 homes sold since 2015. So just know that there's not many situations we haven't been in. So if you're looking for somebody that has that experience, just know that we definitely know what we're doing, and nothing really surprises us. And if we're calm, usually you're calm. So 6-star service, I kind of touched on that, but that is the one thing that keeps me up at night. I want to make sure that your guys' experience is very memorable in a good way. So on a review on Facebook, we can get up to 5 stars. We're shooting for 6. And that just comes through giving, we have a very good custom plan laid out with you. We have a bunch of automated systems in place that give you a heads up on things that are coming up, so you're always informed. And we also are kind of fun. So I think that usually helps make you guys comfortable and have an amazing experience. If you look at our Facebook reviews, we have over 175 5-star reviews, 175 reviews on our Facebook page alone. I think 2 of them are 4 stars. The rest are 5 stars. We have nothing below a 4-star. We don't really get into situations where people are upset with us because we set expectations up front, like right now. Okay. Again, if you guys have any questions when I'm talking about this stuff, please feel free to pop it in the comments section and I will address it right away. Let's see, team versus solo. That's a huge thing to understand. A lot of realtors, most realtors are solo agents, and I used to be a solo agent as well. And what starts to happen is you get sidetracked. You can only do so much. Everybody understands. We all have the same amount of time in a day. It's impossible to do the amount of work that our team does and also provide the service we do without having the team structure. So in the event you needed to go see a house tonight and your agent on our team that you're working with that's unavailable, maybe it's Jaden, and you want to go see a house with Jaden. Jaden's unavailable. He's with his family. That's his day off. Well, guess what? You have 3 other agents on the team, including myself, that could go out and show you that house or run through it virtually for you. Do negotiations, everything. So you're never going to lose a house because of your agent. And that is the number one reason I started the team was I didn't want to get too busy that I didn't have the time to provide that 6-star experience to my clients. And so that's how our team is structured. A team is going to beat a solo agent every single time, no matter what, due to just what we can provide. And then innovative strategies to help our clients succeed. So without going into too many different examples, there are many more things that are just as important in an offer as the price. A lot of people think it's just price, but there are lots of little deal sweeteners that we can work into the deal to make our offer the obvious choice and not put you guys in a incredible disadvantage or in a bad position in the future. There's times where we'll talk about waiving the home inspection or something. If maybe we feel like it's a home that is really, really in good shape, your agent, us, thinks it's great. Maybe it's a townhome that was just recently updated and, it's like, there's not much that can go wrong in one of those. And there's 8 offers. Well, maybe we're the only one that waives the inspection, but maybe we only waive the inspection if they take our offer in the next hour. And so we have ways to motivate our seller or the seller in a seller's market, which is hard to do. As a listing agent, I primarily sell houses most times. I do work with some buyers, but as a listing agent, it is the worst when the buyer's agent's putting pressure on me. It makes me kind of bend to what they want. But most buyer's agents are not as aggressive or as creative as us. And so they kind of just throw their offer out there and hope that it wins, and they usually lose. It's the people that are aggressive and coming up with creative ways to win are the ones that win constantly. So anyway, so that is just a quick overview of why choosing the right realtor matters. Again, for some of you guys, maybe we're not the right fit, but I think for the majority of people, they're very, very happy with us, and there's not many people or teams doing what we're doing. So I'm going to really quick switch over to this other screen and scroll down. All right. So now we are at step 2. So step 1's already done. You can put a little check there. Thanks for choosing the Tyler Miller team. We're going to crush it for you. Step 2 is getting pre-approved. Now, I'd say step 1 and step 2 are interchangeable. You have to do both of them before you should look at any homes. If you are out looking at houses without a pre-approval or without a realtor, you are literally wasting your time, and you are going to make it so stressful on yourself. It is not smart at all. Going to an open house to just look, I can understand that. But if you're physically calling up random agents to go look at houses and you haven't chosen an agent and you're not pre-approved, you're just wasting everybody's time. So step 1 and step 2 are interchangeable. You need to do both of them before you go look at houses with our team. So let's go through the pre-approval step. So we have pre-approval is important prior to beginning your home search. I kind of explained why that is. You cannot make an offer unless it's a cash offer without a pre-approval letter. I mean, technically you can make an offer, but it's not going to get taken seriously until you can provide a pre-approval letter. And there are many differences between pre-approval letter, pre-qualification letter. just know that the way that we would do it is you are legitimately approved to purchase a home. Your offer will be taken seriously. It's not going to be just like, I filled out an application online and based on the income that or the information I provided, you're ready to go. No, it's going to be verified by a loan officer. You're going to be locked and loaded as far as speaking with a loan officer and knowing what to expect for payments and cash to close. Like, you're going to be a perfect buyer ready to go. Let's see here. Make sure you know and trust them. So in today's world, I mean, speaking of virtual, there are a ton of virtual loan officers, like internet brokers, stuff like that. You know, again, you got to put yourself in the seller's shoes when you're the buyer. You can't just go with like what's the most convenient for you. We want to do it the right way. So as a listing agent, if I have 3 offers that are the exact same, let's say, and this happens a lot where they're very, very competitive. One question I always ask them is, hey, is this your loan officer? Like talking to the other agent, the buyer's agent, is this your loan officer? Do you have experience with them? Or is this someone you've never worked with before? Maybe it's the buyer's loan officer they found online. If they say, no, Tyler, this is the loan officer I've worked with for 10 years. They're rock solid. They never miss a closing date. Like, that's the one I'm going with. You know, if it's, well, I don't know who this loan officer is, they've been pretty good and they found him online. I mean, that makes me super nervous because I know that not all loan officers, just like realtors, they're not created equal. They're definitely different. And so I think it's very important that you at least get a quote on a pre-approval from a loan officer partner that we know will do a good job. You can use whoever you'd like, but as long as you're approved by one of our partners, I feel super confident that you're going to be successful. So just know it's not all about the lowest rate and the lowest, it looks like the lowest cash to close. Like, there's so many variables to what you find online. You really want to go with people that we know do a good job. So anyways, don't want to beat a dead horse on that one. Communication and hours. Just like realtors, not all loan officers are full-time. Some loan officers work at a bank. They close up shop at 5 p.m. If you need to get a hold of them at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. when we're writing an offer for a pre-approval letter for that specific property, you won't be able to reach them. And that's a huge problem. Again, if we're in a 8 offer situation, we need to have all hands on deck. And there are many loan officers that do not communicate after a certain time of the day. And most times it's in the evening because they're with their families, which I respect, but that doesn't mean I like it when we're trying to write an offer. So just know all the people we work with are available literally 24/7. My one main business partner will answer the phone at 3 a.m. if you call him. He's always available. Let's see. Good idea to get a second opinion. Like I said, you can work with whoever you want. If you're wanting to make sure that you are getting the best deal, getting a second opinion is not a bad idea. And also, it won't hurt your credit if you do it kind of at the same time as the other pre-approval. So just know that. FHA versus conventional. So first off, I'll just mention that all the loan programs in the last week have kind of changed due to COVID-19. So they've eliminated some of the loan programs. They've raised the credit score minimum on a lot of loan programs. So I'm not going to get too far in depth with that. Just know that the traditional sense, FHA versus conventional, if you can go conventional, which usually requires a little bit higher credit score, which usually requires maybe more money down sometimes, but not much. You're going to want to go conventional for a few reasons. One, the sellers prefer conventional because there's probably less work that may pop up on an appraisal for the seller to fix. With a conventional loan, there's like nothing that will pop up. On an FHA loan, it's like safety things, like if you're missing a handrail going down the stairs. You know, believe it or not, that's something that an FHA loan may require the seller to add on. Granted, it's not a lot of money, but it's kind of an annoyance for the sellers, and it's one less thing they'd have to worry about if it was a conventional loan. Chipped or peeling paint is another one that comes up on FHA loans that the seller would have to fix. So if you can, you want to go conventional just to look the strongest and the most attractive to a seller. Also, conventional loans do not have as high of a mortgage insurance premium that you'd have to pay. FHA is a little bit more per month, but they're relatively the same. And honestly, go with what works best for you and your situation. Sometimes the FHA interest rates are lower, so maybe that makes more sense. But if everything's the same, I would tell you conventional is going to win out every single time, just based on the obligation the seller will have with an FHA loan, or could have. So just know conventional is a way to go if you can. Let's see, establish your down payment. Yep. So when you talk to a loan officer, you're going to run through a bunch of scenarios of what you can afford to pay per month, and then you'll need a down payment amount with that. And so if the down payment is too high, we got to bring their sale price down. And so he'll just kind of talk, he or she will talk through that process with you. But it's just good, again, to go into things with eyes wide open, knowing exactly how much money you're going to need at closing and what your mortgage payments are going to be. Let's see. Focus on monthly payment. I would say, do what's best for you, but 99% of the people we work with, they care mostly about their monthly payment versus the sale price of the house. If they can afford it, they don't necessarily care what the price is because they plan to stay there for at least 5 years. If you're going to stay there for only like a year or two, we got to maybe focus more on sale price. But if you're looking at it as a starter home or your forever home, you should be fine. Just make sure it's in your comfort zone. But you'll see on the screen here, it says that every $10,000 you go up or down in price is roughly $50 a month. So for example, if you're looking at a $200,000 home, if you're not finding what you like and you're kind of at the top of your price range, just know if you went up to 220, for example, your mortgage payments will only be about $100 more a month. And so for a lot of people to get maybe like that extra garage stall or the master bathroom now, or maybe a finished basement, to go up $100 a month might make a lot of sense. And I would say most people just don't understand that it's not, money's super cheap. Interest rates are super, super low right now, and money's cheap, to get a loan. So it might make more sense to spend a little bit more on the sale price, and it won't change your monthly payments by more than maybe don't go out to eat one time that month. And then you have all this extra cash in the bank versus you buy a house for 200 that needs a bunch of work and you got to stick 10, 15 grand into the house. Like that's way more than $100 a month. So just know that money's cheap. I'm a big advocate of leaving cash in your bank for a rainy day. And if you can spend slightly more on the sale price to get what you want and still be in your comfort zone, I'd say go ahead and do that. Okay, let's see here. Earnest money. Nobody ever knows what earnest money is. So I want to make sure we touch on that. Earnest money is it's a upfront part of your down payment that is required whenever you submit an offer on a home. And so let's say, again, $200,000 house, the average earnest money percentage is about 1% of the sale price. So if it's a $200,000 home, we'd probably tell you, you should probably write an earnest money check for $2,000. That money is not an extra fee. It is just part of your down payment upfront. Okay. So let's say your down payment was 5% of $200,000. That's $10,000. $2,000 of your down payment will be taken out of your account up front, and it sits in what's called a trust account, and it stays there till closing. The reason we do that is in case you, the buyer, were to default on your contract in a way that was not allowed in the contract. Mainly just don't show up to closing. If you're just like, I don't want the house anymore, Tyler, it's closing day, but I'm not going to buy it. At that point, you might lose your earnest money. So what that $2,000 is for is it's kind of saying like you're not going to do something you shouldn't, otherwise you might lose it. But there are so many ways for you to get your earnest money back that it rarely comes up. I actually cannot think of a time in 500 transactions where our buyer lost the earnest money. I could be wrong, but I can't think of one. So just know it's not an extra fee. It's just standard with any offer. And you want to have it be a realistic, good amount. If you did an earnest money check for $500, it's not going to look very good. It's going to be, freakishly low for what people would expect. So you want to keep it to what the sellers would be expecting. So yeah, earnest money, very typical, but we'll remind you of that when the time comes. And then what are closing costs? I think a lot of people are always worried about getting the down payment, but they don't realize that there are actually closing costs as well. So there's, again, let's just use the $200,000 house. You have your down payment of 5%, which, by the way, you can have down payments as low as $0. If you're buying out in the Big Lake area, Isanti, Cambridge area, those are called rural development loans. There's down payment assistance programs, which will allow you to buy a house for $1,000 down. So I'm just using 5% as an example. You could buy a house for $0 down if you're a veteran and you qualify for a veteran loan. Lots of different options, but traditionally, let's just say 5%. You got $10,000 for your down payment, and then you're probably going to have to plan on about 2 to 3% of the sale price for closing costs. So in that scenario, let's just use $6,000. So your total cash to close might not be 10. It's probably going to be 16 because you need your down payment plus closing costs. And those go to pay for like your loan officer, for them to convey the title to you at closing from the seller to you. Now it's your house. That costs money to do that type of stuff. There's prepaid items like some of your taxes and a full year's worth of your homeowner's insurance needs to be paid up front at closing. So there's all these things you have to kind of fund what's called an escrow account so that you are ready to pay for your house. And so all those are considered closing costs. So just know that worst case scenario on a $200,000 house, you're bringing like $16,000 at closing in this scenario. But there are ways that we can get the seller to help pay for some of those closing costs. It's harder to do in a seller's market like it traditionally has been the last 5 to 6 years. But in a market where there's COVID-19 all over the place and sellers have to sell and they're more motivated than they were a month ago, this is going to be the time where we can maybe get some extra closing costs covered for you. Maybe we get all your closing costs covered. So instead of paying 16, you're only having to bring 10 for your down payment. There's lots of different options, but we want you to just be aware that there might be some extra costs involved and not just a down payment. So that's kind of a lot of stuff you'll talk about with the loan officer. And that's why, again, it's really important that you talk to one that knows what they're doing because lots of information. Now, if we go down to number 3, refine your focus and set up a home search. So this is something we would normally do in person, where we'd sit down and I would go through the whole home search on our Realtors Multiple Listing Service, which is like the source for all of our listings. So we'll get you set up on the actual source for every single listing. It's not like Zillow or EdinaRealty.com or the MLS online. Those are all just real estate websites that get their information from the source. Let's see, Alicia just said the seller should pay. Here, actually, I'm going to do something cool here. I'll try it to be cool. So Alicia, which is a past client of mine, the Bandolins, say hi to John and the kids. She said the seller should pay the closing costs if the buyer is a nurse. I would 100% agree with you right now. My wife is a nurse and she stays home now, but I mean, I can't even imagine being a nurse right now. So, Alicia, I think I remember now. I'm pretty sure you're a nurse. That's probably why you're asking the question or mentioning it. And first off, thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you to all the other nurses out there that happen to watch this video. But yeah, I mean, we're trying to do our part. That's why we're giving out a free home warranty. It's actually a 2-year home warranty to anybody in the public service and like safety security industry, which would be a nurse. So just know, Alicia, you buy a house with us this year, you're going to get a 2-year home warranty just from us. And I'm going to do my absolute best to get those closing costs covered. Alicia, she said, nurse and psycho mom teacher. Hey, sounds like my house, although my wife is keeping it together pretty good, but I'm probably the psycho teacher right now. But anyways, let me get back to this. I'm going to hide that guy. Okay. So refining your focus, setting up a home search. This is something that we can do over the phone. It's totally easy, but we're going to get you set up on the source to get you the most accurate information and the quickest information for when you're ready to buy a house. So we'll talk through your budget, which is kind of your monthly budget. We want to know what your comfort zone is, what your max payment would be if you found the perfect house, because we don't want you to miss anything. We're going to help you familiarize yourself with the market. That's kind of what this home search will do. It's going to show you only what you're kind of looking for, and maybe you're not ready today, but you'll be ready in 3 to 4 months or 6 months or a year. It just allows you to start kind of watching the market, seeing how quickly things are selling, what they're selling for. It makes you a lot more prepared. Differentiate your needs versus wants. That's a big one. A lot of people will sit down and, I'll say, okay, what's the minimum garage stalls you need? Well, we need 3. And I'm always, I don't want you to miss something. So I'm always kind of playing devil's advocate. And so I'll say, do you actually need 3? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'll say, okay, let's try this scenario. Perfect house. It has the 2 acres you want. It has the open kitchen, updated inside. It's got a sport court, whatever else you're looking for, but it has a 2-car garage. Do you want to see that? And most times they're like, yeah, we'd look at that. And so we're gonna challenge you a little bit because we don't want you to miss out on a house. I've had a client miss out on a house early on in my career that they wanted a 2-car garage. It had a 1-car. It was the perfect house, and they got mad at me. And I said, well, you told me you wanted a 2-car. So just know we're going to get this set up to your needs versus your wants, because we don't want you to miss anything. We obviously know you're going to want better than your bare minimum, but sometimes there's houses out there that make more sense, and you just don't want to miss that. Be realistic. That's very important. I talk to people all the time that, they're all excited about buying a house, talk to them about their monthly payment, and they're like, well, I'm paying $900 a month right now. I want to keep it close to that. And I'll just tell everybody right now, unless you're putting a substantial amount of money down or you're looking really, really far out like Zimmerman, and that's probably not even far enough, you're not going to be able to buy a house for $1,000 a month unless you're putting a lot of money down to bring that mortgage payment down. I mean, right now, the average the average sale price is $330,000 in the Twin Cities, which equates, I would just guess, to about a $1,800 a month mortgage payment. If you're buying a $200,000 house, you're probably around $1,200 to $1,300 if you're putting like the minimum down. So when people talk to me about setting up a search and they only want to spend $1,000 a month, there's just not going to be much out there. So I challenge you to look at your budget, try to make it work, because renting, we know isn't a good option either. It's more money than it is to buy a house, and you're not making any money when you go to sell. Just talking about Alicia, we just sold their house and they did pretty well, and now they're renting, which I know that's why she commented they are buying a house with us soon, because I know that, see right there, we are buying a house with you soon, because I know they don't want to be renting much longer because they know it's not a great investment. So you got to be realistic. If you got to spend a little bit more to get a house, I'd say that's a good idea versus keep on renting for $980 a month. Open house is okay. Absolutely. If I get asked that question a lot, well, if we're working with you, should we still go to opens or should you come with us? Do what is best for you. If you're just driving one day and you see an open house, you want to stop by all means, go in there. We just ask that you always mention to the realtor in there that you do have a real estate agent, and if you have any interest, we will reach out and start negotiating for you. And then for sale by owners, okay, that's what FSBO stands for, just so you guys know, little real estate lingo. FSBO, for sale by owners, yes, those are okay. Most of them are willing to pay a buyer's agent to represent their buyer, but some won't. And then at that point, you just have to ask yourself if you want to be in that situation without a realtor. The answer is definitely no. For sale by owners are challenges even with a realtor. So they are possible though. So just know if you see a sign in the yard that says for sale by owner, we can help you with that too. Okay. We're going to scroll down to number 4 here. Number 4, viewing properties. In today's day and age, this is somewhat of a challenge, but definitely possible. Again, we can do things virtually. We can do things with gloves on and hand sanitizer and masks, or we can go in the house in waves, meaning maybe we go first and then we give you a call. We come out of the house, you go in, and we can talk you through some things, any challenges we saw in the house, whatever we can do to make you comfortable. That's what we're here for. We're out there working. It's no bother to us. We just ask that you understand that it might be, I'm sorry, a question came through. How about a builder that doesn't want to work with a realtor? That is a great question, Alicia. So without offending people that our builders that might watch this. Builders are, I guess, they do one thing. Okay, they build the houses, but they have the real estate license, a lot of them, and so they feel like that they can represent themselves and the buyer just fine, which sometimes you can, but most times it's pretty challenging, especially as the person that's building the house and setting the prices. It's going to be really, really hard to be a unbiased opinion, because you're going to have your self-interest in mind. That's just the way the human world works, right? So a builder that doesn't want to work with a realtor, I wouldn't say it's like common, but we come across probably like once a month. I would just tell you that you always have the option to be represented by an agent. Most builders, their pricing stays the same regardless if there's a buyer's agent involved or not. But most times, if there is a situation where the builder is trying to cut your realtor out of the deal, we can work with you to make sure that it still makes sense financially for you to have us involved. So we work with a ton of buyers that build houses. I've built my own house. I represent a builder. Alex has built her own house. There's so many things that can go wrong. There's so many things that a builder will say that isn't always true, just because that's the way they've always done it. And you want to have somebody in your corner. This is the biggest purchase of your life. And when you're building a house, you are paying more than you should. Just know that new construction is more expensive than anything. But it's just the way it is. Everybody's going to pay a little bit of a premium for new. And if you're building a house and you're spending more money than you should, you won't be able to probably move for a few years without losing money. You need to make sure you're getting the best deal and you're not being taken advantage of. So please, if you're building a house, do not go it alone. It doesn't make sense at all. Most builders are totally fine working with other realtors. They understand that that's the way the world works. So, and then I think Alicia, she said, what is this one here? I'm sorry. A neighbor built a home that is beautiful, woods of Quail Creek, doesn't like realtors. Yeah. I mean, there's always some bad apples out there in the real estate world that will give any realtor a bad impression, but we do a really good job. Builders we work with love working with us. That's why we represent one. They really like working with us. So just know that we got your back. And I would tell you, though, you want to have a realtor involved in the building process from the beginning. Don't bring us in halfway through the transaction or when you've already chosen your lot, because you may have made a mistake along the way that, again, the builder may not have pointed out to you because they just want to sell that lot. They want to get rid of it, basically. And maybe it's not the best lot. So just have us involved from the beginning. We can help you interview builders and go through the whole process. It's what we do on a daily basis. And we know what to ask and know what to look for with promotions and things that maybe they're not mentioning. So anyways, back to this, and thank you for the questions, Alicia. I appreciate it. So number 4, viewing properties. If we're able to do it in a normal way, we would pick a day to go view properties. And sometimes it's just, we don't know what we're going to go see yet, but you give us a week in advance just so we can put it in the calendar and we know we're going out to see homes that day. We recommend you view 2 to 6 homes at a time. You don't want to do one house traditionally. In this market, it might make sense just to be safe. Don't go and see a ton of houses because you don't want to get sick. Go see the 1 or 2 that you really love. But in a normal sense, 2 to 6 homes, because then you have something that you can kind of grade, the house you love against a different house, out there, and know that you're paying the right amount or just feel comfortable about it. Anything more than 6, one will probably take too long with how thorough we are in the houses, and then it might just get a little bit confusing for you. So I would say if you're looking at more than 6 in a day, you probably haven't narrowed it down good enough, and you need to get better at eliminating homes. So otherwise, there's just too many. Use process of elimination. So we're going to walk through each home, and we're going to kind of challenge you to pick your favorite after every house. And as we walk into the second home, we're going to turn to you and say, hey guys, just so you know, this house is worth $100 less than the first one, or whatever it is. We're going to calculate the monthly payment for you so that all you have to think about when you're walking through that house is, okay, this is $100 a month less than the one that I saw previous. And then you're walking through, and at the end I say, okay, guys, is this worth $100 a month less to you? And it makes the decision super obvious, super easy to follow. And people just tend to really like that we break it down and kind of just make it super simple. So we'll do that. And by the end, you're left with 2 houses. You narrow it down to the one. And all that we ask at that last house is, let's say it's number 5 out of 6 that you loved. We just say, okay, if this house was sold tomorrow, would you be upset? If the answer is yes, we need this house, then we need to write an offer right now, that day. We cannot wait. We don't have time to go back for a second showing, none of that stuff. We need to go write the offer before it sells. If you say, it's an okay house, but I think maybe we could find better, then we just forget about all 6 of those houses we saw and we just move on. No problem at all. Let's see, point out the good and the bad of each house. That's, I know, a huge reason why I was very successful early on is I'm not afraid to tell people the negatives of a home. I think, again, there are some realtors out there that do look for like a quick sale and they're just, whatever, they need a paycheck. That's never been the case for me. I really think about the future, and I don't want to ever have to come back to someone's house and say, this was a bad purchase, you actually lost money. So I'm really big about pointing out any negatives that I see to you guys so that you can make the best decision and you're not getting into a house that's going to be a money pit or it's going to lose value or more value than it should in the future. So just know we're very, very honest when we're going through houses. You guys can see the good stuff. We always point out the bad. And sometimes I'm walking through a house, I'm like, I can't find one bad thing. That's usually a good sign you should buy that house. And then parents, friends, and second showings. So as I mentioned just a second ago, we usually don't have time for a second showing. Second showings can easily be accomplished when we get the offer accepted. It's usually contingent on an inspection. During that inspection period, you can come back and see the house a second time. And if you hate it, like for whatever reason, we can cancel during that inspection period and you get your money back and we start over. So it's essentially like a second showing. But if you do a second showing, a lot of times now it's allowing other offers to come into play. And now you might have to spend more money. You might just lose the house altogether. You might let somebody else influence you that's not actually going to be living there, like a friend or a family member. And they might tell you that it's crazy, but they've only seen the one house where we've looked at 15, so just the thing about friends and family, they're more than welcome, but make sure that they come with for all the showings. Don't just bring them to one house and then expect them to give you a good opinion on it because they haven't seen everything we've seen. Parents love them to death. I know I'd be the same way. But a lot of times they're stuck in the market when they bought a house, maybe 20 years ago, and they look at a house for $200,000 and say, I wouldn't pay over 110 for this or something, but they don't understand. So that you kind of open yourselves up to criticism, and it's kind of an unfair position to put yourself in. So again, just make sure they're with the whole time so that they understand exactly what the market is like, and just know that the second showing will be usually during the inspection period. But we definitely want you to feel comfortable. So if we have to do a second showing, we can, but you just risk possibly losing that house, especially in this market. Okay, so after we've viewed the properties and we've narrowed it down to the one, we're going to do step 5, which is make an offer and negotiate. Woo! This is the best part for us realtors. We love this stage because then we really get to shine and go to bat for you guys and advocate for you. So this is always a great time for us. The first step is the call, we call it. This is so important and it's so easy, but so rare. Again, as a listing agent, someone who lists 40 to 50 houses a year, I rarely get called by agents when they submit an offer or when they're thinking about submitting an offer. It's kind of crazy. It's the easiest thing. It's mainly when we call an agent, let's say you tell us, yep, this is the one, Tyler, let's write it up. I'm going to call that agent immediately. Number one, I want to make sure it's still available because houses sell so quickly, it might be sold, and I don't want to be negotiating on a house that's sold. The main reason, though, is to build rapport. I want to talk with this agent. I want to see what the sellers want. In a seller's market, it's very important to just, kind of cater to their needs a little bit. what the sellers want. I want to make the other agent laugh. I want them to like us. I want them to advocate for us to their client. And that call seals the deal a lot of the times just right up front, because they can tell we know what we're doing. We're going to write a solid offer. We're easy to work with, and we're going to make this super, super easy. So just know that the call is something we do for everybody. Multiple offers are common. We've already talked about that. Even in the COVID-19 market we're in currently, Alex, my sales partner, just won in multiple offers 2 or 3 days ago. Maybe it was last night. I don't know. She was writing an offer and won in multiples. It's very common still. There's still a lack of inventory for the amount of buyers that are out there. Let's see, what is highest and best? You've probably seen or heard that. Highest and best is usually when there's multiple offers on a property. The seller and the listing agent are going to put a deadline for when they want all the offers turned in by, and they're asking everybody to put their best foot forward, sending in their highest and best offer. There's usually not much negotiation that takes place at that point, so you really want to put your best foot forward so you are the obvious choice to win. So some people are just curious, like, well, will we still be able to negotiate? Most times what happens is they end up choosing to work with one offer, like the best one, and then maybe there's some little changes. Maybe it's a closing date, or I don't know, they want you to change something with the sale price or whatever. But unless you're the one chosen offer, they're usually not even going to give you a chance. You got to be the obvious choice. Offers can be written in person or electronically. Definitely electronically right now. But yes, we can do that, and that's pretty common. Most people are not with us in person when we're writing the offer, so that's no big deal. Pre-approval letter, so we need to get that. Let's see who just commented that. Sorry. Last night. Alex said we have a great way to combat highest and best. We have lots of great ways to combat highest and best. I don't want to give them all the secrets, Alex. Okay, they gotta wait and let us help them when they're ready. But yes, we have a lot of ways that we can win in multiples. So let's see here. Key factors of an offer. Kind of mentioned this earlier. There are lots of different things that make an offer strong. It's not just sale price. It's not just closing date. There's always like little terms, personal property. Like, are you asking for their couch, their kitchen table? If we're doing that, we need to overcompensate with other things. Contingencies. You have a house to sell. Do you want to do an inspection? There's so many different things that build your offer and then will allow us to give you the best recommendations. So just know that we will go through those when we have more time in person. And let's see here, disclosures. You'll be given seller's property disclosures. So it kind of tells you the history of the home based on the seller's knowledge. So if they know of any leaks in the foundation or any repairs that need to be done, they're required to tell us that up front. Are they being truthful or not on the disclosure is a whole nother conversation, but they're supposed to be very honest on it and tell us everything that we should be aware of. Let's see here. Be flexible on terms. Again, just know it's a seller's market as of today. Maybe that changes in a week or two, but as of right now, it's a seller's market, and you have to just be willing to work with people. We have your perfect situation right here, and I get that. We're going to shoot for that, but if there's a couple things we can flex on, it might make you be the winning offer. And then the seller may accept, which would be awesome, or they can counter, obviously. They could also just say no. So it's very important that we give them a realistic, good offer. All right, let me go to the next step here. Again, any questions, throw them up there in the comments and I'll address them right away. For those of you watching this video later, you can always just email or text me after watching this and I can address things as well. All right, number 6, get an inspection. So this is a step that may or may not come up, but I'd say 90% of the time our buyers are asking to do an inspection on the property. Sorry, I was just making sure no one sent a comment through. But let's just assume that our offer is contingent on an inspection, because more than likely it will be. Just know an inspection is a third-party opinion, somebody that you would hire to come and walk through the house and give you a report on it. We have recommendations for the inspection, but you can use whoever you want. You could technically like do the inspection yourself. You don't have to pay for somebody, but if you're going to do an inspection, we'd highly recommend that you use someone that does it every day and is a professional. And again, we have people we would just refer to you if you'd like to use them. They charge between $300 and $500 depending on the size of the house, and it is an upfront cost at the time of the inspection. You pay them. So it's separate than the down payment or closing costs. It is an upfront cost that you would just pay them. One thing I just want to make sure I mention before I forget is there will be nothing on this inspection that is required to be fixed by the sellers. Not one thing. This is a third-party opinion. So some people think, oh, that's not up to code, that has to be fixed. It doesn't. Code only matters when you're either doing a renovation, like improving your home, or you're building a new home. Or the city makes you do something like in Mounds View, for example. Now when you when you sell your home, the sellers have to get their drain pipe that goes to the street. They have to get that inspected. It's required. They just passed that like a couple months ago. But there's going to be nothing on the actual inspection that's going to be required to be fixed. It's all going to be up for negotiation and interpretation based on your inspector and you. So please don't understand that when we're doing the inspection. Radon testing. So I don't know if you've heard of radon or not, but just in case you haven't, radon is a natural gas that emits from the Earth's crust, and it is everywhere. Radon is everywhere. We're all sitting in radon right now, breathing in the radon air. And it's totally safe as long as it's at safe levels. But there are some homes that are built on a piece of land that radon just comes out of that piece of land a lot more than others. And if you're in on a piece of land that emits really high levels of radon, there is definitely a health hazard there. It's equivalent to smoking like X amount of packs of cigarettes a day, depending on how high the radon levels are. But if you have like a basement bedroom and someone slept in that basement bedroom for 10 years with high radon, like they probably are going to have some lung issues in the future. It's kind of scary. Luckily, there is a very easy and somewhat inexpensive way to treat radon. So just know that that's why it's important, I think, to test for radon in any house you plan on being in for a while. Just because we want to make sure that we get that addressed up front if there is a problem. But radon testing is another like $100 to $150 with the inspector. The inspection period will last between 5 and 10 days, usually on average. We just have to get everything negotiated and either moving forward or canceled within those 5 to 10 days. Again, if you cancel your offer during the inspection period because maybe you were just scared off by a bad roof or the furnace is bad, and the seller's unwilling to fix things, we can cancel, and then we would get our earnest money back. Let's just say that $2,000 again for the $200,000 sale price example. You get your earnest money back, and we just start over. So that's a really key part about the inspection is it is a kind of a get out of jail free card. It gives you an easy out if we need to get out. Schedule right away and when you can be there. It's very important that we don't wait till the end of the inspection period, the 5 to 10 days to do the inspection, because we might need a few days to negotiate if there's some challenges. So you want to schedule like right away. And then don't worry about your realtor being there. If we can be there, we will. I rarely go to inspections because our inspectors take really good care of our clients, and it's important that you're just focused on them the whole time. And honestly, I would just distract you with some dumb internet meme or something. I don't know. So honestly, it's better that you're just there with the inspector. You have you just give them your undivided attention, and they will walk you through the whole house. And it's just, yeah, if you can't be there, you're going to get an electronic report sent to you that also I'll be able to see, and we'll go through it with you and address anything that you're concerned about. So just know you don't have to be there, but it's really important that you are if you can. Now, like I mentioned, there's going to be nothing on the report that is going to be required to be fixed. So it's important that we're only looking for big ticket items. You have to understand that you're buying probably an existing home, and even a new construction home is going to have issues. We just hope they're not big issues, so if there's like a little settling crack in the ceiling, like that's very common in Minnesota with the freezing and thawing of the ground, the house moves. So it's going to cause cracks. Those things aren't really that big of a deal, and they're sometimes you see deals fall apart because of stuff like that, when you should be paying attention to, like, are all the windows bad? Is the roof bad? Is the furnace bad? The air conditioner, was there water damage somewhere that wasn't disclosed? And now we need to figure that out. All those are legitimate reasons to be nervous during an inspection period. But to say that this light switch doesn't work and it needs to be fixed, that's a little tedious. I mean, obviously do what you want, but a light switch, if I can fix a light switch, I'm sure anybody out there can, because I'm not the most handy. But I cannot fix a broken window. I don't know how to do that. So I need somebody else to do that up front for me, or I'm not buying the house, because windows can be really expensive. So we just want to look for big ticket items, pay attention, and remember that, because you don't want to let the deal fall apart over little minor things that can easily be addressed after you move in. Okay. Especially in this market. When it becomes a buyer's market again someday, we can nickel and dime them, but you don't want to do that in this market. And then buyer's remorse. Everybody has experienced buyer's remorse already in their life, probably. It's when you are maybe online on Amazon after, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 12 White Claws. Not that I have experience with that. But maybe you're on Amazon and you order that $1,000 water trampoline that you've wanted. And then you wake up the next morning, you're like, what the heck did I just do? I don't have $1,000. I can't afford that. I don't want to do that. That's buyer's remorse. You probably can afford that. That's why you bought it and you wanted it. But now you're panicking because it was a big purchase. Same thing happens when you purchase a car. You drive off the lot. Boom. You drive and you hit the curb. You get into the street. Your car just lost, half its value roughly. And immediately, you're probably like, oh my gosh, this was a big purchase. I spent $40,000 on this car, and what am I doing? All of this is very normal, and there's actually a word for it. It's called buyer's remorse. If you don't have buyer's remorse when you make a big purchase, I'm a little worried about you, because obviously you worry about finances and you want to make sure you're making the right choices. So when you purchase the largest purchase of your life in a house, it's very, very common to kind of have some self-doubt a little bit. You're going to be excited, but you're going to be a little nervous. Just know that emotion will pass once you kind of pass the inspection period, and you'll go back to very excited. But just be prepared for that emotion to kind of creep up and kind of mess with you a little bit. It is common, but we're here to talk you through that and remind you of all the reasons why this is the right house for you. All right. For those of you that are still with me after an hour and 6 minutes, thank you. I am trying to be as thorough as I can, because I know we're going to probably use this video in the future as well. So stick with me. The last couple steps don't take nearly as long. So we're almost done. Number 7, get an appraisal. So the appraisal happens after the inspection period, and it is ordered by your loan officer, whoever you're working with. And the reason the appraisal takes place is it is to make sure that you are not overpaying for the house. Because the bank, if you're taking the bank's money, they're only going to give you the money for the house if they think it's a good investment. Just like if anybody were to, if I were to get a loan from one of you, you're going to, and I'm paying you interest on it, you're going to want to make sure that I'm not going to lose all that money, right? You're going to want to make sure it's a good investment that you can get behind. And so that's why the appraisal is there. It's to make sure that the bank is not going to get screwed over basically on a house that isn't worth what we're paying. So assuming that the appraisal goes great, and let's say we're paying $200,000 for the house, it appraises at 200, we're good to go. But if it appraises at 195, now we have a challenge, because that only can be solved with cash, the $5,000 difference. And so, all that means is the bank is only going to give you $195,000 for that house, and we're agreed to 200. So we have this problem, and the only way that can be solved is if the seller drops their price, or we come up and pay cash for some of the difference or all the difference. That is the one true way you can overpay for a house, just so you know. And we don't recommend that unless it's like a house that you're very confident you're going to be there for 5 to 10 years. Let's see here. So an appraisal costs between $400 and $700, and it's part of the $6,000 in closing costs I mentioned earlier. It's not an upfront fee. However, if you were to do an appraisal and then cancel the deal because it appraised low and you didn't want to pay the difference in cash to make it work, and the seller wouldn't budge either, and we had to cancel, you'll get your earnest money back, but you'll be charged the $700 for an appraisal because the appraiser has to get paid. And so normally it's part of your closing costs, but just know if you happen to cancel a transaction during that time, it would be an extra fee you'd have to pay. So just know that. And then you'd need to order another one on the next house. So it's really in your best interest to try to work out that appraisal if there is a challenge, but we don't want to overpay. So, and then just know that this is where, when I was talking about FHA versus conventional, this is where that comparison would come up again. So the appraisal is checking two things. One is the value, and then two are any work orders that are required by the lender based on your type of financing. So let's say this $200,000 house has chipped or peeling paint all over the outside because it's wood siding and it hasn't been painted in 20 years. The appraisal, maybe it came in at 200,000 and it was good, or value is good, but there's a work order. And the work order states that the chipped or peeling paint needs to be remedied, meaning the seller's got to strip and paint the whole house. That's going to be a challenge as well. The seller's not going to be super happy about it. And that's why they're going to wish that they went with a conventional offer, conventional loan right away. But so there's two things we're looking for in the appraisal, and just we got to get past both of them. Most times there's zero issues because we wouldn't recommend you write an offer on a house if it had chipped or peeling paint all over, knowing that you're FHA qualified. It's probably going to be a problem. So you usually don't run into those issues, but every now and then there's work orders that pop up that we just have to then renegotiate with the seller and figure it out. So there's two things with the appraisal. So I just wanted you to understand that. So let's assume it appraised at 200. We're moving on. No problems at all. No work orders. Good to go. Now there's this gap of time between step 7 and 8 it's usually like 2 to 3 weeks where we're kind of like working towards closing, where we're not as closely communicating because now our title company has kind of taken over. Our closer has been talking with you for a few weeks to get you all your information. The loan officer is getting you all your final numbers, and we're just making sure that the deal stays together, answering any questions that come up, all that stuff. So it's an interesting time for us realtors. We almost like miss you guys. We were working so closely with them, but now it's the other partners' jobs to help you out. So once we get to step 8, it's very close to closing. So set up funds for closing. You'll receive a closing disclosure from your lender 3 to 7 days before closing with your cash to close amount. So what that means is you're going to have like estimates on everything. Very, very close, rough estimates though, up until about a week before closing. Sounds crazy, but that's the industry we're in. This is America. It's the Wild West out there sometimes. And you may not have your actual final numbers until a week before closing. And so usually there's no surprises, everything's fine, but just understand that you'll be signing off on some disclosures with the lender and locking in your loan and all that stuff. Locking in your interest rate. Then you're going to get a cashier's check for the amount made out to your title company. So if they say you got to bring $16,000 to closing, you're going to get a cashier's check, not a personal check. And you're going to have that made out to Edina Realty Title, and you're going to bring it to closing so that we can close. And then wire fraud, just know that I'm sure you guys have heard of phishing email scams. We don't do wires traditionally at Edina Realty. In today's COVID-19 market, we're probably doing more because it's just less human contact to do a wire transfer of your down payment and cash to close. But traditionally, you're bringing a cashier's check to closing. And if anybody's asking you for your bank account information or saying we need to do a wire, that's usually fraud. And please let us know so we can make sure that you don't do something that you shouldn't. All right. We're almost done, guys. Thanks for sticking with me. So we have, and by the way, like after step 10 here, I'll sit here for a few minutes to see if anybody has any other questions, but feel free to start typing them now if you want. Step 9, we're going to do a final walkthrough of your house. The point to the final walkthrough is to make sure that your home is in substantially the same condition as it was when we saw it during the offer that we wrote and also during the inspection. Or if maybe there was some repairs, like they had to replace the roof, we want to make sure that not only do we have paid invoices showing that it was done and paid for, but that we go see it fit and look with our eyes and make sure it looks good. It's our last chance to see the house before we sign on the dotted line and it becomes yours. It's usually done the day before or the day of closing. I do, and our team does what's called, we call it like a mini inspection, where we're going to go through, we're going to turn on every faucet in the house, run every appliance, open every window, turn the furnace on, turn the air conditioner on if it's not winter. We're going to inspect it the best we can, look for any signs of water intrusion, anything like that. Because again, this is our last chance to verify this house is good to go. And if we find any issues, we'll bring it up to the seller's agent prior to us signing on any dotted line at closing. This is, and so I said that point number 3 already. And then the last point, dress snazzy, because it's the perfect photo op with your new home. We wear many hats, okay? My best one is a photographer. I take awesome photos, and you're always gonna, be like, oh, I didn't dress up for this, or I don't look that good. I'm in moving clothes. Nobody cares. I don't care. You have a sold sign. That is your outfit for the day. You have a sold sign. You're buying. Maybe it's your first house. We got to celebrate that. We're gonna bring a sold sign to closing. You're gonna be in front of the house, smiling and just taking in that day. It's such a cool photo to have, and we'll make sure that we capture that for you. And then from there, we usually go right to closing. Again, with COVID-19, we're actually not allowed to go to closings right now. So you would be going just to meet with our closer, but we'd be available via phone if anything comes up. But traditionally, we'd be going to closing with you. The loan officer would be at closing to make sure that everything's looking good with the numbers. And it's a really, really fun day. It's a great time to talk with the sellers, see if there's any questions that you have about the neighborhood or any quirks with the home that they want to mention to you. Again, right now with COVID-19, we are sitting separate rooms to make sure we don't spread any diseases or viruses. But when you get to closing, bring a valid ID, your cashier's check that you were supposed to bring, and then a personal checkbook if you have it, just in case we need it. Closing will take about an hour. There will be more photos taken. And then you're going to sign, and boom, you'll be an elite member of the homeowners club. And that is the best moment, is when everything's done and they bring in your copies and they give you the key and they say, guess what, guys, you're a homeowner. That never gets old. That moment for me is the best. And it seems like a long journey, but honestly, it goes by a lot quicker than you'd think. And by the end of it, you're just like, I can't believe how easy that was. Because everybody's heard their horror stories, and just maybe bad experiences or just things you've seen online or on TV, and you're just assuming it's going to go bad. And honestly, most times it goes awesome. So just know that those are the 10 steps to purchasing a home. You're going to blow my face up and get me back